This is Harley Hartwell, and you're listening to the Case Closed Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Case Closed Podcast. This is D-Wall here, and we have a lot to talk about today. I know I said I was going to get to this episode about a few weeks ago, but things happened. I had to move to a new apartment. I got a studio set up, and then plus, of course, more importantly, the Kevin M. Connolly interview that me and Professor C did came out. If you haven't listened to the first two parts, it's a very exciting interview, very informative, a lot to learn, a lot to discuss in that interview. The first two parts are up right now on the YouTube channel, and the third part will be coming out very, very soon, so be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, there are two important things to discuss in this episode, the first of which being the new Lupin the Third and Detective Conan movie and special that came out a few weeks ago online that released from Discotek Media. Now, I'm going to get to the topic of this episode in a minute, which is the difference and the similarities, of Lupin and Conan. And this is going to be a two-part series. One part will be just me, and on the next part of the series, I will have a guest. I'll have a special guest to come in and share their thoughts on the subject. But first, I'd like to talk about the special and the movie that came out a few weeks ago from Discotek. Now, a lot of people said that if the movie sold well and the movie sold well and the special sold well, at Discotek would take a look at Case Closed and say, hey, we want to have this licensed as a series. We want to have this licensed so that we can bring it subbed or dubbed or however to the States, again, like Funimation did. But also, if you haven't listened to our earlier episodes, we also discussed the other side of that, which is Discotek may want to get the series, but is it a financial gain or a financial loss for them if they do decide to pick it up? Well, how many people will actually go out and buy copies? Who will actually go out and bring in the interest, bring in the money to offset the cost of picking up the license? And also, what license will we get? Will they get the episode license? Will they get the movie license? Will they get a certain amount of licenses? How many licenses will they get? Because from what we've discussed, there's numerous licensing issues with the series, considering that it's almost up to 800 episodes now and 20 movies. So that's a lot for them to take on, especially with the costs and trying to get a cast together if they do have a dub. So it's a lot to think about. And a lot of people that I've seen, a lot of people that have left their comments have said that it could lead to a sub release, which would be the easier way to go, as opposed to maybe a dub, because of the cast and how many cast members they would have to receive and get to even match up to the later episodes where there's a bunch of different characters coming in and a bunch of different storylines coming in. So a sub probably would be best, especially considering that Discotek is a smaller company than maybe Funimation or the other ones. So there is also that to consider as well. But nonetheless, the movies and special have sold fairly well. Last time I remember, they were in the top 70 or top 60 of the anime charts, which is really, really good for that. It broke over the top 100, so that's good. It shows that people had an interest. But the question was, will it be enough for Discotek to say, we want to pick up the series? I don't know. I just want to be honest. I don't know if it means that they're going to necessarily pick up the series. Are they going to take another look at it? Are they going to consider their options? Are they going to weigh their options? maybe I'd see that first before any type of announcement, any type of rumors going around about it. I think what they're going to do probably is take a look, see how where the sales go in about a month or after Christmas, and see where they want to go from there, especially after Christmas, because after Christmas then most of the sales are gone, most of the Black Friday sales are gone, so they'll see how much the movie and the special sell after that, and maybe they'll discuss it more. Maybe they'll see if it's a viable option to bring Case Closed into their licensing and into their family, so to speak. But for now, it's just a wait and see thing. It's just a wait and see on if it's going to be good, if it's going to be bad, if it's going to be a financial gain or a financial loss. We'll have to see. But nonetheless, that doesn't change the fact that the special and the movies have sold fairly well, and most of it may be coming from the popularity of Lupin the Third, but some of it has to be Detective Conan as well. Some of it has to be Case Closed related as well. It can't just be one or the other. It's a crossover special. It's a crossover movie. Both fans of both have something to enjoy from the movie and the special. So if you haven't gone already and picked one up, please do so. There's an unboxing video on this channel as well. If you haven't seen it, it's a great little insight to what the movies and the specials look like out of the box. So go check those out after this if you can. But now we're going to get to the bread and butter of the topic of this episode. We're going to get to the other questions about more in depth of what Discotek might do now with the Detective Conan series, probably on Case Closed Live. But right now, we're going to get into the real topic of this episode, which is the similarities between Lupin the Third and Detective Conan here in America. Now, before we go any further at that, I know people are going to say, well, they're both mystery in a way, they're both action animes in a way, and yes, that may be true, but there's a thing of how they were handled in America that I want to touch on. That's the main focus of this topic, is how they were handled when they came to America, how the company that picked it up, Adult Swim, how Adult Swim presented the series to the fans. Now, granted, what had happened is, from what I remember, and this is going from my perspective, your perspective may be a little bit different than mine, but Case Closed had a lot of weight behind it. It had a lot of momentum behind it coming into Adult Swim. They had promotions for it almost every night. Everybody knew when it was going to come on. Everybody knew what channel it was going to be on. Everybody knew somewhat of what it was going to be about. So there was no problem with that. Same with Lupin the Third. When Lupin the Third came out, it was on an earlier time slot, yes, but it had the same amount of promotion. It had the same amount of drive behind it. It had the same amount of excitement and fan anticipation behind it as Case Closed did. So there's a big similarity with that. But the other similarity is how it was handled after it aired on TV. And when it first aired on TV, granted, it was popular. Both of them were popular. Both of them were exceeding expectations, if you will. But once it came around to the 50th, 49th episode of Case Closed, and it got to that point because some of the 1 hour specials were actually split up into 2-part episodes, which kind of makes sense, but that's not the point here. Around episode 49, it was over. Case Closed was done. They started rerunning the episodes. They didn't bother to put the newer episodes up. They just went from 1 to 49 and then back to 1 to 49 and back to 1 to 49, which made absolutely no sort of sense to me whatsoever. Maybe it was because the ratings got bad as the episodes went on. Maybe it was because it didn't have as much push behind it as it once did. I don't know. It was a long time ago. It was back 2004. Same with Lupin the Third. Lupin the Third came on at like 11, 12 o'clock, if I remember right. Had the same amount of push, had the same amount of promotion, had a good run going, but then around maybe even sooner than Detective Conan did, maybe about 30 or even maybe more, a little bit more than that maybe, they cut them at the knees pretty much. They went and they reran all the other episodes again, and it was pretty much dead in the water from there. And it got even worse as the weeks and months went on, because Adult Swim never really promoted the two anymore in favor of other animes and other shows that they felt were more popular or more had more excitement behind it than those two. You'd maybe see a Case Closed promotion there, or a Lupin the Third promo here, but never as it once was. And then soon after that, it just went downhill, because the Case Closed gets pushed to the 5 or 5:30 a.m. slot. Lupin got pushed to Case Closed's former slot, but at that point, nobody really was up that late to see it. And granted, Lupin may have had a little bit more excitement behind it than Case Closed did, but Case Closed was dead in the water, because they did not have any sort of push behind them at all. There was no interest from Adult Swim, at least it seemed that way to me. There was no interest with the fans at that point. Some of the casual fan base, not the hardcore fan base that we are, but the casual fan base that watched Adult Swim every single night, there wasn't any interest from them, so there wasn't any interest from Adult Swim itself, and which is why it was pushed as far back as it was. Now, Lupin the Third, on the other hand, that's a totally different thing in itself, because Lupin the Third ended its run earlier, and it still came on earlier, but it was still treated as almost the same way. No real promotion, no real excitement behind it, and it was just pretty much, you're on your own. Let the show do the talking for us. We don't have to promote this anymore. We don't have to drive any more fan excitement towards it anymore. Let the chips fall where they may, pretty much. And that's what doomed both series in the beginning. Now, there was, of course, a renewed push for Case Closed in a few years ago when they went digital. But even then, even Funimation didn't give it much press. Now, yes, they had the banners up on the front page, and yeah, they had promotions pretty much everywhere. My take on it is, it was only to please the Case Closed fans base that wanted more Case Closed. They knew, my theory is they knew that we wanted a season 6, because at this point they had already released 1 through 5. They knew that we wanted a season 6. They knew we wanted more movies, but they didn't give us new movies, and they didn't give us a new season. They gave us the same seasons digitally. They gave us the same series in a save edition. They gave us the same movies in the same thing. That's what they gave us. They did not give us a season 6. They did not give us a movie 7 or a movie 8 or a movie 9. They didn't give us any of that. They teased us, and they teased us, and they teased us, and they wanted to see if we would bite. Kind of like a fish and a fishing rod. You put the fishing rod in the water and you dangle it around for a little bit, and you try and see if you'll get a bite. And that's exactly what Funimation did with us, in my opinion. They dangled it for a while right in front of our faces to see if we would take the bait. And some of us did, and I admit, I did too. I really felt like this was going to be the beginning of a new renowned push from Funimation for Case Closed, because the fan base was there. The fan base was crying and begging for more episodes, for more series, for more movies. We wanted it. We needed it. We felt like we needed it. We still do. Right? Even today, we still do. But Funimation seemed like it didn't matter to them, or the sales weren't there. And we've heard it before, time and again, that the reason why Case Closed wasn't as popular to Funimation, and it didn't drive as much to Funimation, was because the sales were low, and because people didn't buy as many as it was costing them to do the licensing. Movies sold better, the episodes and the seasons did not. And that was one of the reasons why it got canceled. Now, I may sit on the other side of this microphone and think that I know that. I know everything, but I don't. If that's what happened, then fine, that's what happened. But it doesn't change the fact that if the movie sold well, if the movie sold more than the seasons did, then give us another movie. Give us another movie. We'll be fine with that. Let Discotheque or somebody else pick up a season and do a season 6. Hell, we're doing a season 6. The dub with the fan dub, we'll give you a season 6. But at least we would love to see a sub or a dub of a season 6 at least, to at least have that satisfaction of knowing what could have been. Because you and I, you listening, and me, and even Professor C knows that if season 6 came out with that whole angle with the black organization and with Javier coming in and the secret about the drug that shrunk Jimmy and everything like that, if that had actually happened, that would have renewed the interest in the series again. But it didn't, because Funimation was all about their money, and in the end of the day, when it's all about the money, you don't get anywhere. You don't get anywhere just solely on money. Now, I know it's a business, and I can't sit here and say that I know about business, because I don't know about business. That's the last thing I know about is business. But at the end of the day, Funimation knows that we have a voice, and so do Discotheque. Discotheque knows we have a voice. They know that we have something. We have passion. We have the love for the series that we do. And that could drive them to say, we will license this in some way, shape, or form. It may be a movie series. It may be the just a series in general. I don't know. But hey, it could happen. Anything can happen. Now, Discotheque, speaking of Discotheque, after Funimation just let Lupin the Third go, Discotheque picked it up, and they've been doing well with the series so far. They released most of parts 1 through 3. They released movies. They've done dubs of the movies. I know Funimation did one revamped series for Lupin the Third, but that was about it. So, if Discotheque could pull Lupin the Third out of the jaws of death, pretty much, then hey, why can't they do the same for Case Closed? I believe they can. That's another similarity. I think that at this point, if Discotheque has to realize, if they can do that for Lupin the Third, if they can take Lupin the Third, that was pretty much dead in the water with Adult Swim and Funimation, and restore it and drive a fan base behind it and drive that fan excitement behind it like they did and like they still do now, they could do the same for Case Closed. Like they have all the other shows that they picked up. They have the willpower, they have the passion, they know that we have the passion to see it. If we have a season 6, if they announce that they have picked up the series and there's going to be a season 6 or a movie 7, or however they do it, if they redub the whole series or something like that, who knows what they're going to do. But we'll pick it up. We'll pick it up because we love the series. We'll pick it up because we love this series. And that is what matters in the end, that we love this series. We love the characters. We got emotionally invested with the characters. We got emotionally invested with the story. Seeing everything past the dub and seeing the subs and seeing what actually happens in the manga and the sub anime in Japan and the movies, we get emotionally invested in the series. We get emotionally invested in what happens. It's like life. Get emotionally invested in the things, and when we get emotionally invested into things, it's hard to let it go, and we can't do that. That's why we get so behind this movement, and why this community has grown so much so in the last few years, is because people want to see this series come back however it does. And when it does, we're going to be right there supporting it 100%. The casual fan base may not, but the hardcore fan base can, and they can also bring newer viewers, newer fans in to say, hey, this is a great series, you should check it out sometime. This is a great show with great characters. You should check it out sometime. That's why we encourage you to pick up the seasons that are already out, to pick up the movies that are already out, show your friends, show your family, tell them about the series. If they like it, great. If they don't like it, fine with me, fine with you. But in the end, you're still telling people, hey, this is Case Closed. This is what it's about. I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, that's fine. But if you do, great. One more fan to add to the cause. And that's why we go to these panels. That's why I'm trying to go to these panels with Professor C and Travis, because I want to share my story about Case Closed. I want to share exactly why I love the show as much as I do, as much as I follow the series, as much as I followed it for years, ever since it first appeared on Adult Swim. I've loved the series. I love it still today. I want to be able to tell other people how great this series is. And that's why I'm doing the podcast. That's why I'm doing Case Closed Live. Not just to help Professor C, but to show how much love I have for the series and how much I want to give back to bring the series back here in the States. And I'm sorry for going off on a tangent there, but to make a long story short, Adult Swim ruined both shows. Nearly ruined both shows. They were both given plenty of fan excitement. They were given plenty of hype, plenty of promo time. But afterward, once they started rerunning it, once they started just giving up on it, it was done. And that's the ultimate similarity between the two shows. Once it was done, once the rerun started, Adult Swim just dropped it. They just dropped the ball on it. They just were done. They were done with it completely. And I'm so hoping that if Discotek could do a revival of the series for Lupin, they will do the exact same thing for Case Closed. And I cannot wait to see what happens next in next year, because next year could be the year, people. Never say never, but next year could be the year we finally get something. We finally get something substantial, something to be talking about. Yes, we just got Lupin the Third versus Detective Conan the special in the movie. I understand that, and I'm happy about that. I am overjoyed about that. I'm going to get my copy before the end of this year. But I'm talking about a standalone Case Closed Detective Conan release that we haven't had in years. That's what we're waiting on. Hopefully it's a season 6. If not, we'll just have to wait on our fandom to do that. But in the meantime, season 6 or movie 7 or however, a redub of the entire series or whatever it is, I'll be there as long as well as all of you guys I know that will be right at the front of the line, buying and picking up as many copies as we physically, mentally, and financially can at this point. But again, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you for it's a really short episode, I know, but thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for supporting the movement, for supporting the series. The third part of the Kevin M. Connolly interview will be coming real soon, as well as a new episode of Case Closed Live. On the next podcast, it might be the interview part 3. It most likely will be the second part of this series where I will have a guest. I'll have a special guest here to talk about the Lupin and Conan similarities on with their perspective, as well as more from my perspective as I see it, as I hear about it. But if you guys have any topics you'd like to hear about on these podcasts, just leave them down in the bottom at the comments below, or maybe on the Facebook page, and I'll be glad to get some inside info on it, to research it however I can. Maybe you will, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, so let me know on here or on Facebook, and I'll be happy to talk with you and see what we could work out. But again, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate, again, I can't stress this enough. Thank you for inviting me into the community in this role that I am in right now. I will do everything in my power to do more for this community, for this movement, for this podcast, for Case Closed Live, for whatever I end up doing, whether it be panels or shows or whichever. I will do my best, just like I know all of you would, and just like I know Professor C has for so long. Thank you guys again for listening. Thank you guys for supporting the movement, and I'll talk to you guys on the next episode of the podcast. Talk to you guys later. Thanks.